Archie, does everyone need a financial planner?
Yes, and here's why. I'm Archie Hoxton.
And I'm Rob Hoxton.
And this is Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. Welcome back to the Last Paycheck Podcast, brought to you by Hoxton Planning and Management. We're your hosts, CFP professionals Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton. And today, we're going to talk about DIY retirement. And we figure there's probably a lot of people who listen who are do-it-yourselfers when it comes to financial planning and retirement planning and investment management and all that good stuff. So we wanted to have an episode where we identify kind of the specific pitfalls that we see that are common that you need to avoid if you're going to kind of do this yourself. And then also, that sort of naturally leads to why it often makes sense to work with a planner who can help you avoid those things.
We're also going to talk about some of the advantages to having a DIY or do-it-yourself approach, because there are some advantages. Yeah.
Well, let's start with that, because this is sort of, I think, where most people start is, okay, can I do this myself? And so probably the first thing that comes to mind is that if you're doing it yourself, that means you're saving money on not hiring someone to help you with it.
Well, we should definitely start by saying you can definitely do it yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you do it well yourself.
Well, that's up to you.
And what you're giving up by doing that is up for debate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the first thing is saving money, not paying a professional to help you do it. That often is one of the first barriers I think that people run into it when they're thinking about this is, I don't really feel like paying someone to do it, so maybe I can just look into doing it myself. Another benefit is if you are naturally inclined to like personal finance, you've always enjoyed kind of doing the retirement planning and handling your money yourself. There's a major set of people out there that have just enjoy it, almost like how you enjoy a hobby. It just gives you a certain sense of satisfaction to manage your own investments.
It's kind of like puzzling, right?
Yeah. Higher stakes maybe than puzzling. Yeah, and a lot of the information that financial planners know is available on the internet.
Right.
The Internal Revenue Code on the internet. You've got all kinds of, investment companies who put resources and research on the internet. So
I think of it, I liken it in many ways to, so you have your beautiful home and there's a really big tree right next to it. And every time there's a windstorm, parts of it fall out on your roof, and you're starting to think, what's going to happen when the tree falls?
Mm-hmm.
It is true that you can go over to the local steel dealership and buy yourself a fancy chainsaw and a nice ladder, and you can cut that tree down by yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And you may save, the last time I paid a tree company to take a tree down near my house, they had to climb the tree. It cost about $3,500, which is not a small sum of money. And yeah, I have a lot of experience living on a farm, heating my house with wood with a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at that tree and I thought, it looks like that tree is going to fall when I cut it away from the house. But what if it doesn't?
Yeah.
Right? What if it doesn't? What if it falls on top of the house? Now, am I going to go out and buy that new chainsaw and cut it down and hope it goes well? Because once it goes badly, it gets expensive fast. And the problem with retirement planning is there really aren't do-overs.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. You get one chance, and it's a gigantic goal. I have the same policy with things like with home projects, like you mentioned with the trees. For me, it's electrical work. Yeah, if I could put myself in the hospital, plumbing, if I could flood my house and cause a fortune worth of damage, when it would have been much cheaper to hire a plumber.
Yeah.
Yes, I could go and get the training of a plumber. I could go to trade school and then probably do as good a job, but I'm still lacking the experience and the wisdom
Right.
that a professional has. And I also don't want to spend my time learning that. That's, I only have so much time on earth. I want to learn the things. I want to spend my time on what's really important to me. So that's kind of maybe the first trade-off is, are you going to do as good a job, and do you want to spend the time actually getting to the point where your ability would be close to or on par with a professional's ability to do it. So let's maybe get into some of the more specific.
Yeah. Well, one of the
pitfalls.
big reasons that people do it, I mean, you mentioned that people enjoy the challenge and the academic pursuit of figuring out your finances and planning for the hopefully 30 or more years that you spend without a paycheck in retirement. And I think one of the big drivers is cost.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've ever interviewed a financial planner, some of them may have been very clear on what the costs are. Some of them may not have been quite as clear, and which is unfortunate. But usually there is a cost. If you think that your financial planner is doing it for you for free, then you're not getting full disclosure. They are not doing it for free. But oftentimes people do it yourself because they don't want to spend the money. They've been frugal. They've had a 401k and they saved their money and haven't used a professional up to this point, which is fine. The stakes are much higher once you retire, and instead of just being in accumulation phase, you're in, how do I structure my income in retirement in the most cost-effective way and tax-effective way? The stakes are much higher, and it's much more complicated, of course. And frankly, a really great financial planner each year will show you how the recommendations and the decisions that they made on your behalf and in collaboration with you either saved you or made you more money. And they should be able to show that and demonstrate it clearly. That's something that we do at Hoxton Planning and Management, is make sure that clients understand, number one, what they're paying. Number two, whether or not it was worth it.
Right.
And if they feel it wasn't worth it, then they're free to go.
Yeah.
And we don't lose clients very often, but if an advisor can demonstrate clear value, it may not be more expensive to hire an advisor than doing it yourself.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that the alternative is you have to compare doing as good a job as a professional would do when you compare the cost. If you can, then yes, you are saving money. If you can't, then you may be incurring costs that could be permanent that you don't realize, or missing opportunities that are permanently affect you.
I've got an example, real life example, client. I'm going to, the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but, we had clients that are getting close to retirement. He's a little bit older, so he's retiring sooner than she is. And their inclination is, second marriages, they kind of have their finances separate. And their inclination is, when he retires, is for him to begin to draw Social Security and to draw on his 401k and IRAs. So pre-tax, so the money that comes out is fully taxed at ordinary income tax rates. She's still working. She's got a high income. And so in modeling that out, we were able to show them, look, if you do it that way, instead of spending money from, in this case, her after-tax account and allowing his IRA to continue to grow, it would have ended up, in present value dollars, costing them an additional $150,000 in taxes.
Yeah.
Bumping them into the highest tax bracket right now. And so what made sense to them, just from the way they like to do their money, completely didn't make sense once you considered all of the other factors.
Yeah. And that is probably the number one drawback of the DIY is you have to have a certain level of command of the tax code and the ability to project out the impact of taxes over your lifetime.
Yeah.
And even if you do have a CPA that you work with, often CPAs, because they're focused very much on tax preparation.
In the present.
This year, some of them can do tax projections, and that's really important. But if they don't, then it's up to you to determine, okay, like I need to know that there could be some major lifetime difference in taxes based on a decision like that, when to draw from an IRA versus from a taxable account.
That's right. And that $150,000 in individual in taxes, over their life expectancy, and we use age 95, over their life expectancy potentially meant the difference of $300,000 to $500,000 in inheritance to their two children.
Right.
And so, so there are a lot of factors that have to be considered. And it's like a decision you make today has a ripple effect 20, 30 years down the road, and it's magnified once you're retired.
Another example of that would be Roth conversion. One, you have to know that a Roth conversion may be a good idea for you, but then you have to know whether it actually is, right? A Roth conversion in retirement can be a really powerful strategy to maximize your after-tax wealth by the end of your life and throughout. But you also have to know if it makes sense for you in your circumstances, because it doesn't always make sense. That's another, so tax inefficiencies.
That's a super popular topic on YouTube, right? So a lot of podcast hosts are really focusing on that. It's become a very popular topic, but it doesn't, and we've modeled it a million times now, not really a million, but a lot of times. And it doesn't always make sense. Every situation is different.
It can result in, it can end up being a more costly decision for some people. So, another one is, and I think this one's really important because it is, especially right now, with the way things are going in the markets lately, managing investments. I think it's easy to take for granted how simple investing is when you're building and accumulating, right? Oftentimes it's in a 401k, maybe it just goes to a target date fund or something, sort of automated. It gets more complicated when you retire, because all of a sudden now you have to shift from just putting money in and not worrying about it. The markets go bananas and you're like, I've got time, to I've got to live on this now. And I'm just watching my portfolio go like this.
If you're doing it yourself, you don't have anybody to counterbalance those scary thoughts that are in your head.
Yeah.
Frankly.
So there's the, what do you do in your investment account piece? And then there's the, how do I know I'm not making an emotional decision right now? Because I don't have anyone who can look at this objectively with the expertise and training to know what they're looking at.
Right.
So there's kind of two pieces of that, because maybe you need to do something in your portfolio at that time. Maybe you need to rebalance. Maybe you need to make a change in your risk profile and move your asset allocation more conservative. Or maybe you need to be talked off the ledge and talked out of a decision that could be permanent. I mean, picture the market, declines at 20% and you get worried and go to cash because it feels like this time is different, that we're headed into the worst time we ever experienced in the history of the economy, the modern economy.
If that's your worry, yeah.
Yep. That just about every time the market does something crazy, somebody is saying that. But now that money is gone. That capital you've just erased from your financial plan, and now you have to make it work without it.
Another thing that when you do DIY it, you might make some decisions. You need to test that scenario over time. And do you have the tools and an understanding of how to use those tools to do the modeling, and really understand what the range of potential outcomes for a decision that you might make would be. So that's another important thing. A financial planner would have those tools normally and has a lot of training and experience in how to do it. And since we're talking about the reasons why people need financial planners, we obviously believe that very strongly. I have a copy of this book that I wrote a couple of years ago called Think Ahead, 10 Reasons Why You Need a Financial Plan. It is available on Amazon, but if you're interested in having a copy of it, the first 5 people that send us a message, we'll send it to you for free. And it has, some of the things we're talking about today, and quite a few others about why it makes sense and why it may be cost effective to hire a financial planner.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hope that this also, if you are someone who believes in being a DIYer and wants to do that this is useful and that you can avoid these pitfalls and these mistakes that we see from time to time.
Know your blind spots.
Yeah, know your blind spots. There are tools out there to use that are like what we use as professionals, and it can be done, but just arm yourself with knowledge. So anyway, and leave comments for us if you like this, or if you want to hear about a specific topic, leave us a comment. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share with your family and friends, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.